told you that letting go is weakness, that surrender means failure, that to survive in this world, you must hold on to people, to pain, to expectations, to your own self-image, until your fingers bleed. But here's the truth they never wanted you to learn. What you refuse to release will rot inside you. And what you're clinging to is the very thing killing you. They never taught you the art of letting go, because if you mastered that, you wouldn't need the world's distractions, attachments, and illusions. You would become untouchable, unbound, limitless. You see, real power isn't found in how tightly you can grip what's slipping away. It's found in the stillness of an open hand, in the courage to walk away, in the clarity to say, "This no longer serves who I am becoming." But that kind of strength terrifies people, because the world thrives on control, on chaos, on your fear of loss. They teach you to equate identity with attachment, that your worth is measured by how much you own, how many titles you collect, how many people you please. So you build your empire on sand, on relationships that drain you, on expectations that suffocate you, on lies you repeat just to keep others comfortable. And then one day, it all begins to crumble. The mask slips, the weight breaks you. And in that moment, when everything you tried to control turns to ash, you're faced with a terrifying question. Who am I without the things I've been holding on to? The truth? You are free, but only if you're brave enough to stop worshiping what wounds you. Letting go is not the end. It's the beginning of clarity, the beginning of self-respect, the beginning of becoming the version of yourself that doesn't need to cling to anything outside of you for validation. But it's not a soft journey. This isn't some poetic spiritual fairy tale. It's war. Letting go means war with your ego, war with your need for control, war with the version of you that was built from trauma and lies and emotional debt. It's not gentle. It's not sweet. It's savage. It's surgical. Because you are peeling off the false layers of yourself, bit by bit, scar by scar, until all that's left is something raw, honest, and unshakable. Do you understand what kind of discipline that takes? To not chase the thing that left you, to not beg for the weight you already dropped, to not resurrect the pain just because you're used to suffering. No. Letting go is for warriors, for those who have suffered enough to stop romanticizing their own pain, for those who have stared into the abyss and realized they are not the darkness, they are the fire within it. The world will call you cold. They will say you've changed. They'll whisper that you've become distant, detached, too focused on your path. Good. Because they never cared about your peace. They only cared that you stayed predictable, manageable, trapped in cycles they understood. But you were never meant to be understood by the masses. You were meant to be free. And to be free, you must let go of people who feed on your doubt, of environments that dull your edge, of habits that whisper comfort while stabbing you in the back. You must stop tying your value to what you've endured. You are not the pain. You are the phoenix that rises from it. And here's what they don't tell you. Letting go doesn't make you numb. It sharpens you. It carves away the noise. It teaches you to see clearly, to act with precision, to walk into the fire with no armor, because you've already burned away what was false. So when the time comes, and it will, when you're tempted to grip something that's slipping away, ask yourself, am I holding on because it serves me? Or because I'm afraid of who I'll be without it? And if it's fear that drives your grip, open your hand. Let it fall. Let it hurt. Let it echo. Let it bleed. And then, stand up. Because the version of you that emerges after the letting go is the one the world wasn't ready for. A version that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't cling. A version that walks in silence, but commands presence. That expects nothing, yet manifests everything. Because they finally understand what most never will. You don't lose when you let go. You lose when you hold on to what's already gone. So now the question becomes, how do we live this way? How do we walk through a world of constant noise, chaos, and attachment, and still remember the quiet power of release? How do we train ourselves to recognize the moment when holding on becomes the very thing that's holding us back? It starts with principles, not just vague ideas, but unshakable laws to guide our path when emotions run high and clarity fades. Here are 6 laws to live by, each one a reminder, a blade of truth, to help us master the art of letting go and build a life of true fulfillment. Law 1, the law of expired seasons. Not everything is meant to last, and that's okay. There's a silent war inside most people, the war between who they used to be and who they're becoming. And in that war, many die slowly because they chose to stay loyal to a version of themselves that no longer exists. You see, we have this twisted idea that strength means holding on, that commitment means staying, even when it hurts, even when it's breaking us, even when the door has already shut, the lights have gone out, and the room has turned cold. We confuse endurance with wisdom. We confuse struggle with purpose. We confuse loyalty with self-destruction. But let me tell you something real. If you keep watering dead soil, don't be surprised when nothing grows. There are seasons in your life that have served their purpose. People who were only meant to walk with you for a chapter. Habits that helped you survive, but will never let you thrive. Mindsets that once protected you, but now imprison you. And if you don't learn how to identify the expiration date on these seasons, you will rot alongside them. The most dangerous thing you can do is stay too long in a place your soul has already outgrown. You'll feel it at first as a whisper, a subtle discomfort, an inner knowing that something's off. But if you ignore it, it grows louder. You start to feel suffocated in situations that once felt safe. You begin resenting the very things you used to crave. And still, you cling. Why? Because the unknown terrifies you more than the decay you've come to normalize. But here's what most won't tell you. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to walk away, to change direction, to burn bridges that lead back to pain. You are allowed to say, I no longer belong here, even if you once did, even if you sacrificed for it, even if you bled for it, even if others expect you to stay and suffer for the sake of continuity. Let me ask you, do you want to be remembered as someone who stayed out of fear? Or someone who had the guts to walk alone into the next version of themselves? See, trees don't cling to their dead leaves. When winter comes, they let go, because they trust the rhythm of nature. They know that without release, there can be no rebirth. But humans, we resist. We cling to comfort, to familiarity, to titles, to people who no longer love us, to jobs that hollow us out, to identities we've outgrown, and we call it commitment. No, it's self-betrayal dressed in noble language. The law of expired seasons demands something brutal. You must become your own executioner. You must end things, walk away, Burn the script. Release what once felt like everything. Because the longer you stay where you no longer belong, the further you drift from who you were meant to become. Fulfillment isn't found in clinging. It's found in alignment. And alignment requires pruning, cutting, walking away from almost right, so you can make room for what's exactly right. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will feel like death, because part of you is dying. But what emerges after you let go is truer, stronger, sharper. You'll have fewer people in your corner, but more peace in your heart. Fewer distractions, but more clarity. You'll stop chasing what's already gone and start building what's waiting to be born. So here's your wake-up call. Look around your life. What have you outgrown? What are you still feeding that stopped feeding you long ago? What are you pretending still fits, when deep down, it's strangling you? Be honest. Be ruthless. Then act. Cut ties. Shed layers. Close chapters. Break the mold. And when the guilt creeps in, when the fear whispers that you're making a mistake, remember this. Seasons expire to protect you from living a life that was never meant to last. Let go, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Let go, not because you're heartless, but because you're finally choosing your highest path over your lowest habits. Let go, because the longer you delay, the more of yourself you'll lose. And when you do, you'll feel it. A deep breath, a weight lifted, a quiet voice inside that says, "Welcome back. I've been waiting for you. Now walk." Your next season begins where your courage lets go. Law 2, the law of energy conservation. What drains you is not worth your peace. You only have so much energy in this life, so much mental bandwidth, so much soul force, and every single day, you're spending it, whether you realize it or not. Some of you are exhausted, not because you're doing too much, but because you're giving too much of yourself to things that give nothing back. You wake up tired, go to bed restless, your mind spinning with conversations you should have walked away from. Your heart's heavy from obligations you never agreed to carry. Your calendar's full, but your spirit feels empty. Why? Because you've become a leaking vessel. Your energy, your essence, is being drained by things you should have released long ago. People who manipulate your loyalty. Jobs that devalue your soul. Habits that rob you of your fire. Mental loops of guilt, regret, and overthinking. You give your power away in 1,000 tiny transactions and wonder why you feel hollow. Understand this. Your energy is currency. And just like your money, you have to decide what gives you a return and what bleeds you dry. When you spend energy on things that don't align with your purpose, you go bankrupt internally. Your goals begin to decay. Your clarity turns into fog. Your motivation rots in a pit of resentment. This is the slow death of the undisciplined. The world doesn't just steal your energy with chaos. It seduces you into wasting it willingly. It convinces you to fight battles that aren't yours, to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, to carry emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. And when you collapse, it tells you to get up and do it again. No, not anymore. Because once you awaken to the truth, once you see the cost of every interaction, every thought, every decision, you realize energy is your most sacred resource. More than time, more than money. You can always make more money. You can never make more soul. You have to start asking, is this worth my energy? Is this conversation nourishing me? or poisoning me? Is this routine building my future or slowly draining my spirit? Am I energized by this relationship or emotionally held hostage by it? When you start living by that filter, everything changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop attending battles that were never yours to begin with. You stop tolerating people who only come around to siphon your power. And in their place, peace. Not the shallow kind that's sold in self-help slogans, but the raw, quiet power of inner alignment. The peace of waking up with a full tank. The peace of no longer explaining yourself. The peace of knowing your energy goes where it matters and nowhere else. You begin to walk differently, talk less, move with precision, because every step has intention. Every moment has weight. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop scattering yourself across 1,000 shallow interactions and start pouring your energy into the few things that set your soul on fire. And those around you, they'll feel the shift. The energy vampires will call you cold. The manipulators will say you've changed. The world will try to guilt you back into servitude, but you won't bend. Because you've learned the lesson. Your peace is expensive. Your purpose is not up for negotiation. And anything, or anyone, that costs you your clarity, your power, your fire, is too damn expensive. This is the law of energy conservation. A law for warriors. A law for those ready to stop leaking power and start building empires, internal and external. Because the truth is brutal, but beautiful. You don't need more time. You don't need more chances. You need to stop bleeding energy into what's already proven it will never fill you. Protect your power. Sharpen your focus. Conserve your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. Law 3. The law of non-attachment. You can love deeply without clinging desperately. The world is addicted to control. We want guarantees. We want permanence. We want people, outcomes, and dreams to sit still while we try to master them. We confuse ownership with love. We confuse control with security. And we call our desperation commitment. But here's the raw truth. You don't own anything. Not people, not outcomes, not even the moment you're living in. Everything you touch is temporary. Every breath you take is a gift, not a guarantee. Everything can be taken from you, and one day, it will. So the question is not how can I hold on tighter? The question is, how can I live with depth without being destroyed by loss? That's where non-attachment comes in. This law isn't about being cold, distant, or emotionless. It's not about walking through life numb. No, this law is about freedom. Because the moment you cling, you suffer. The moment you need someone to act a certain way to feel okay, you've given your power away. The moment you must achieve a specific goal to feel worthy, you've chained your value to the outcome. And now, you're no longer living. You're negotiating with reality. You'll say, I'll be happy when. I'll feel peace if. I'll love myself after. But you never arrive. Because every time you reach the horizon, it moves. Understand this. Attachment is the silent killer of fulfillment. It creeps in like a friend, but binds you like a captor. You start obsessing over people you can't control. You start fearing the loss of things you never truly had. You start needing life to look a certain way in order to feel safe. But life owes you nothing. And the moment you stop demanding, it starts flowing. When you practice non-attachment, something shifts inside you. You begin to love people without trying to possess them. You begin to chase goals with intensity, but not desperation. You begin to show up fully, knowing that the present is all that's ever been real. This is power. When you can give your all and still let go of the outcome. When you can care, but not collapse when things change. When you can love and not crumble when it ends. Because your peace is no longer for sale. You stop trying to bend reality to your will, and instead, move with it. You stop grasping and start receiving. You stop fearing change and start trusting your own ability to adapt. And the irony? Once you let go of needing things, you become magnetic. You stop repelling what you want with your fear of losing it. You stop choking the life out of dreams with your control. You create space for the right people, right opportunities, and right outcomes to enter your life. Not because you need them, but because you're finally ready for them. You become calm in chaos, focused in failure, unshaken in loss, because you've learned the ultimate truth. You never owned any of it anyway. You're just here to experience it, to give love, not trap it, to express your vision, not enslave it, to enjoy this moment without chaining your worth to whether or not it lasts. This is non-attachment, not weakness, not apathy, not cold detachment, but fire without smoke, love without chains, discipline without addiction. This law separates the wise from the desperate, the fulfilled from the fragile, the warriors from the worriers. Because when you let go of clinging, you make room to actually live. So ask yourself right now, what are you clutching out of fear? Who are you trying to control out of insecurity? What outcome are you obsessed with? Because you believe your happiness depends on it. Then breathe. Loosen your grip. And trust that nothing real will ever require you to abandon your peace to keep it. Detach. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand the power of letting go. Law 4. The law of inner truth. If it betrays your peace, it betrays your purpose. You can lie to the world. You can lie to your friends, your followers, your family. Hell, you can build an entire life on a facade. Smile through your teeth. Numb yourself with distractions. Pretend everything's fine. But there's one lie you can never escape. The lie you tell yourself. And that lie has a cost. It costs you peace. It costs you clarity. It costs you fulfillment. You feel it in your body. The tension, the restlessness, the sense that something's off, that you're misaligned, that you're waking up every day wearing someone else's skin, but you keep playing the part. Why? Because it's easier to wear a mask than to confront what's underneath. That's the tragedy of modern life. We've been taught to fear our own truth, taught to silence the voice that says, "This isn't me," taught to obey expectations louder than our inner knowing, taught that peace is found in pleasing others, fitting in, and staying safe. But the longer you suppress your truth, the louder your soul screams for freedom. Eventually, you'll wake up anxious without reason. You'll feel lost, even when you're successful. You'll feel hollow even while surrounded by people. Because deep down, you're not living your truth. You've traded authenticity for acceptance. You've traded alignment for approval. You've traded purpose for performance. But make no mistake, your soul keeps the receipts. And every day you betray that inner voice, it burns a little more of you away. This law, the law of inner truth, requires brutality. It demands you look in the mirror and ask, what am I pretending not to know? What job, relationship, habit, or belief am I clinging to that I already know is killing me? You know, you've always known. The problem isn't clarity, it's courage. Because when you honor your truth, it comes with a cost. It might mean walking away from comfort. It might mean losing people who only loved your mask. It might mean burning the life you've built, so you can finally build one that's real. But ask yourself this: what's the greater cost? Facing the temporary discomfort of change, or spending your whole life slowly suffocating in a lie? When you obey your truth, peace follows. Not the artificial peace of things looking good on the outside, but the real soul-deep peace that comes from being who you were born to be. The world will tell you you're selfish. They'll say you're reckless. They'll try to guilt you back into your cage. Let them, because their comfort is not your responsibility. Their expectations are not your compass, and their approval is not your oxygen. This is your life, and if you don't have the courage to live it on your terms, it will be lived for you. By fear, by culture, by the loudest voice in the room. Fulfillment comes when you stop seeking direction from the world and start listening to the compass within. That inner voice, it doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't beg, it waits. And the longer you ignore it, the more chaos you'll attract. Because life has a savage way of forcing alignment. If you don't listen when your soul whispers, it will scream. And if you don't move when it screams, it will collapse everything you thought was stable, just to get your attention. So stop waiting for the breakdown. Start listening now. Get honest, ruthlessly honest, even if it hurts, even if it breaks your world apart. Because only truth can rebuild it on solid ground. Honor your inner knowing, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Because peace isn't found in pretending. It's found in the radical act of being exactly who you are, without apology. This is the law. Live by it, or suffer by its absence. Choose truth. Choose alignment. Choose peace, even if it means burning the lie you once called your life. Law 5. The law of receptive emptiness. To receive, you must first make space. We live in a world obsessed with more noise, more possessions, more goals, more distractions, more of everything. But nobody wants to talk about space. Nobody wants to sit with the emptiness, because it's uncomfortable. It's quiet. It confronts you with the things you've been running from, the thoughts you drown with dopamine, the wounds you mask with movement, the truth you bury beneath the next achievement, the next relationship, the next high. But here's the paradox that nobody teaches you. If your hands are already full, how can you receive anything new? If your mind is cluttered with noise, how can clarity find a place to land? If your heart is still entangled in dead weight, how can love, purpose, or peace flow in? You want the next level, but you're still hoarding the energy of your last mistake. You want transformation, but you're dragging baggage from an identity you should have buried years ago. And then you wonder why it's not working. The truth is harsh, but simple. Fulfillment doesn't come from more. It comes from room, and room requires release. You've got to clear the field before anything new can grow. You've got to detox before your body can heal. You've got to destroy the old blueprint before you can design the life you were meant to build. But you're scared of the void, aren't you? You're scared of the silence, because silence forces you to hear yourself. And what if you don't like what's there? What if all the things you've clung to, your coping mechanisms, your relationships, your distractions, were just armor armor that's now rusting and suffocating the very life you're trying to breathe in? This law is ruthless. It doesn't ask for a gentle cleanup. It demands you empty yourself out. It demands you release your grip on everything you thought made you who you are. Because the only way to truly receive is to let go of the illusion that you're already whole with what you've accumulated. You're not. You're carrying ghosts, memories you never mourned, people you never truly forgave, roles you never chose, but felt forced to play. And all of it is taking up space that your soul needs to grow. You've got to make the room. The mental room, the emotional room, the spiritual room. Sometimes that means deleting old numbers. Sometimes it means letting go of relationships that have expired but linger like static. Sometimes it means walking into an empty room and facing yourself, naked, raw, and real. You must become the vessel. And a vessel only has power when it's ready to be filled. A cluttered vessel overflows with noise. But an empty one? That's where miracles land. But here's what they won't tell you. The emptiness will break you. At first, it'll feel like death. It will feel like loss. It will feel like failure. But don't confuse the void with the end. The void is the womb. The stillness is the forge. The silence is the sanctuary. It's the place where you are stripped down to what's real, where the ego dissolves, where the masks fall off, where the old self dies so the true self can emerge. If you want fulfillment, you must become available, not just physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. You must be willing to become empty enough to be reborn. This is the law of receptive emptiness, and most will run from it. They'll fill every second with scrolling, every moment with noise, every space with anything, just so they never have to face the truth. They are terrified of what might show up when there's nothing left to hide behind. But if you're different, if you're ready, then make room. Start by releasing what you've outgrown. Let go of what you've been using as a crutch. Clear the clutter, not just in your closet, but in your heart, your schedule, your mind. And then, wait. Not with anxiety, but with expectation. Because now, you've signaled to the universe, to the divine, to life itself, I'm ready. And when that moment comes, when the emptiness begins to fill, you'll realize the void wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't being deprived. You were being cleared. You were being refined. And now, you are finally open to receive not just more, but exactly what was meant for you all along. Let go, make space, and watch what flows in. Law 6. The law of courageous surrender. Letting go isn't giving up. It's rising higher. Most people think surrender is weakness. They think it means losing, folding, quitting. They picture someone on their knees, head bowed, defeated. But they've misunderstood everything. Because real surrender, true surrender, isn't what the world has taught you. It's not a collapse. It's a conscious decision. A decision to stop clinging to illusions. A decision to stop fighting battles that drain your soul. A decision to release control so that power can finally take its place. Letting go isn't a retreat. It's an ascent. See, the weak keep grasping. They try to force things to happen. They manipulate. They chase. They beg. They live in a constant state of resistance because they believe force equals strength. But that's not strength. That's desperation in disguise. Strength is being able to walk away from what you once thought you couldn't live without. Strength is standing in the middle of chaos, hands open, saying, if this must fall, let it fall. Because the truth is, control is an illusion. You were never in charge of how it all plays out. You were only ever in charge of how you respond. Your discipline, your focus, your alignment. That's your domain. Everything else, you can fight it or you can surrender to it. But understand this. Surrender doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop forcing. It means you give your all and then release the grip. It means you trust the process, even when the results haven't shown up yet. It means you lean into uncertainty, knowing that peace is built on trust, not control. This law requires courage of the highest order, because surrender means entering the unknown with no guarantees. It means walking away from the familiar pain of control and stepping into the unfamiliar power of trust. And trust is terrifying to the untrained mind, especially if you've lived your whole life in survival mode. If you've been conditioned to believe that unless you're pushing, you're falling behind. That unless you're clinging, you're losing everything. But the opposite is true. The tighter you grip, the more you suffocate what you're trying to save. You hold so tight to a relationship, it dies. You obsess so hard over success, it evades you. You try to control everything, and all you create is stress, anxiety, and burnout. But when you surrender, the pressure lifts, the resistance fades, and things begin to flow. Not because you force them, but because you finally aligned yourself with truth. Look around your life. What are you trying to force? What are you terrified to lose? What are you clutching so tightly that you've become blind to what it's costing you? Surrender isn't about passivity. It's about strategy. It's about knowing when to move forward and when to let the waves carry you. It's about knowing that your ego wants control, but your higher self wants freedom. The life you're trying to build, the one filled with clarity, peace, purpose, and power, will never arrive if you're still operating from fear. And fear cannot surrender. It can only grasp, manipulate, and self-destruct. But courage? Courage lets go. Courage says, if I lose this, I'll survive. If I lose this, I'll grow. If I lose this, it simply wasn't mine to keep. That's when you begin to live. When you're no longer afraid of what walks away, breaks down, or doesn't go according to plan. Because you've made peace with this truth. Whatever is meant for you cannot miss you. And whatever misses you was never meant to stay. This is the law of courageous surrender. The final law. The highest law. The one that makes all the others possible. Because until you can surrender, you'll never truly let go. And until you let go, you'll never be free. So stand up, open your hands, release the tension, step out of the illusion, and trust that when you surrender, you don't fall into nothingness. You rise into everything. Everything that was always meant for you, but needed you to let go of the old world first. Surrender is not your defeat. It is your rebirth. And in that moment, when you finally let go of everything false, you don't just survive, you become unstoppable. Fulfillment doesn't come from more noise, more people, more goals, more control. It comes from subtraction, from precision, from the ruthless art of letting go. These 6 laws aren't suggestions. They're survival codes for the soul. Because in a world that worships chaos, distraction, and attachment, it takes a warrior to walk away. It takes a warrior to know when a season has expired, to conserve energy like it's sacred, to love without owning, to honor the voice inside that whispers truth while the world screams lies. to empty the vessel so something real can finally enter. And above all, to surrender, not in weakness, but in absolute grounded power. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. Let them mourn the version of you that once needed their approval. Because the real you, the one rising from the ashes of illusion, that version doesn't cling. It chooses, it aligns, it lets go and levels up. So here's your final command. Stop delaying your freedom. Stop pretending you're fine when you're dying inside. Stop chasing ghosts and gripping dead things. Stand still, breathe, and remember, you do not need to force what is meant for you. You only need to clear the space, choose the truth, and let go. Let go of the weight. Let go of the noise. Let go of the version of you that was built on survival. You're not here to survive. You're here to rise. And now, the path is clear. Let go, or be dragged. Surrender, or be shattered. Release, or remain imprisoned. The choice is yours. But understand this. Your freedom begins the moment you stop holding on.